The Russian investigators have opened a probe into what happened, but have not yet said who it's
All right, I've confirmed with the stores.
They officially confirmed the identities of the 10 women part of the operation. British military intelligence said on Friday that there is a highly likely Prigozhin is dead. The Pentagon has said its own initial assessment is that Prigozhin is dead. Russia's Gaza News Project, which has three sources in the law enforcement agency, has reported that investigators are focusing on a theory that the operation fails. No complaints has been made to the public.
All right, give us more insights in terms of what exactly is happening in the aftermath of Yevgeny Prigozin's death. We've been joined in by Glenn Beasley, who's Professor of International Relations at the University of Southeastern Norway, joining us live from Oslo. Listen, this is something that is going to be talked about for a very long time. What actually resulted in Yevgeny Prigozin's death, without whether he's even dead at all. But the fact is, Vladimir Putin has now offered his condolences. But is this a case where Yevgeny Prigozhin was done in because the mutiny that he staged against the Russian forces 2 months ago? Or do you think that this was actually an accident?
Well, it doesn't seem likely to be an accident. It's too big of a coincidence, I guess. So the speculation, of course, goes around, some arguing that it was from the Kremlin, others argue there was perhaps some rogue elements in the Russian government, others pointed to the United States, others looks towards Ukraine, or simply some of the enemies that Prigozhin built up over the years before, well, effectively the Kremlin pulled up his protection. While of course there would be based on opportunity, it would make a lot of sense to point at Russia, and also some arguments that points against it. For example, this was done in the middle of the BRICS meeting, which was immensely important to Russia. They did this on the territory of the Russian Federation, which was very public death instead of having him disappear or die in Africa. And also this happened at the eve as Wagner is returning onto the battlefield in the war. So it's also a very strange time to disorganize and create so much chaos within the group. So it is a mystery, but again, I haven't excluded any possibilities.
Now, what happens to the Wagner mercenary group per se? It was such an important strategic asset for Russians, not only for the fact that it was fighting in Ukraine, but also because it's so actively involved in other theaters of conflicts in West Africa and even in Syria.
Well, I think they're going to keep Wagner because it's like private military companies have a lot of benefits. They bring in a lot of special expertise and specialization. They have flexibility. They also have reduced risk of casualty because they're specialized. Also, they're more politically acceptable casualties as they're simply working in a military company as opposed to someone who's conscripted. You know, it's resource saving. Sometimes they even make money when they're working abroad. And the best of all, of course, is possible deniability. Russia would have to use them to, for example, strike, do an attack against, limited attack against Poland or another NATO country. They could be quite useful. So they will want to keep them, but they transferred so far most of the heavy weapons away from Wagner and a lot of the ammunition because they simply became too powerful and too unreliable. So this again will be the disadvantage for private military corporations. So I think they're going to look to reform it, new leadership, not so centered only around organization, possibly more loyalty towards the state, effectively overcoming some of these disadvantages which we see with private military corporations.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Beasley, for joining us in this program.
My pleasure.
All right, now, give us more insights in terms of what exactly is happening in the aftermath of Yevgeny Prigozin's death. We've been joined in by Glenn Beasley, who's a Professor of International Relations at the University of Southeastern Norway, joining us live from Oslo. But listen, this is something that is going to be talked about for a very long time. What actually resulted in Yevgeny Prigozin's death? There are questions that are being raised around whether he's even dead at all. But the fact is, Vladimir Putin has now offered his condolences. But is this a case where Yevgeny Prigozhin was done in because of the mutiny that he had staged against the Russian forces 2 months ago? Or do you think that this was actually an accident?
Well, it doesn't seem likely to be an accident. It's too big of a coincidence, I guess. So the speculation, of course, goes around. Some arguing that it was from the Kremlin. Others argue there was perhaps some rogue elements in the Russian government. Others pointed to the United States. Others looks towards Ukraine or simply some of the enemies that